Alright, so today I'm going to take some time and show you how to do some of the graphing methods out of Chapter 5. I'm specifically going to focus on Method 1 right now. It's probably the most difficult and most time consuming, but if you get this one, the other two aren't so bad. So we'll start here. Okay, so I gave you an equation, as you can see. By the way, this is not that. Sorry, scratch that out. I gave you a basic, this is a quadratic equation. I know it's quadratic because it has an x squared in it. Alright, so I know it's quadratic because of that. Now, the next things I'm going to look at, or is I'm going to show you some letters here. A, B, C. We use these letters to designate the numbers in front of your variables. So A would be this understood 1, or negative 1. B is going to be the negative 4, and C is the number 1, all right, by itself. So we have 3 letters, and we're going to use these to solve our equation. Now, the most important thing for solving functions using method 1 to graph them is this equation right here. You got to memorize it for your test, so learn it. All right, x equals negative b over 2a. Now, it's easy to see what numbers go in here because b, like we just said a second ago, is negative 4. So I'm going to have negative times negative 4 over 2 times negative 1. It's important to realize that this negative right here is not the same as that negative right there. They're two different things, okay? Again, now if we do a little simplifying, 2 negatives make a positive 4. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2, and when you divide these, you get negative 2. Now, what this gives us here is this gives us simply the x of the vertex, okay? That's all this gives us. This little equation, this negative b over 2a, only gives you the x of the vertex. That's all. Okay, so here, let's write that down. So that's the x of the vertex. We don't have anything else from it. Just the x of the vertex. Okay, now you can see we're missing the y. We need a point. We're missing the y. Well, anytime you want to find a y that goes with an x, you simply take this number right here, right, and you plug it into the x here and the x, always into the original equation. So that's what we're going to do. First thing we're going to do is find the x of the vertex. The second thing we're going to do is find the y by plugging that number back into our equation. So we get this. Negative times negative 2 squared minus 4 times negative 2 plus 1. And from here, you're just solving a basic algebraic expression. So this is the easy part. Now, little simple order of operations, guys. You have to distribute, okay? You have to do this first. You have to distribute the exponent, right? Never the number in front here, or the sign in this case. This stays until the next step. So the first thing we do is we square this term. So negative 2 squared is going to be positive 4, which now gives us this, okay? Again, don't deal with this term until you square that number in the parentheses first. All right, so when we square that, we get positive 4. Now when we distribute the negative, we get y equals negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 2 is positive 8 plus 1. And again, now we're just adding and subtracting. Negative 4 plus 8, excuse me, is going to be positive 4. Sorry, didn't mean to write negative. It's going to be positive 4. Positive 4 plus 1, which gives us y equals 5. Now again, this is the, just to clarify, this is the y of the vertex. That's all it is, y of the vertex, okay? So watch, I'll plug it back into our original point up here. Negative 2 comma 5. That is the vertex. And believe it or not, you've done most of the hard work. The hard part is finding the vertex. All right, so now that we have a vertex, let's go through, let's graph the vertex, okay? So as soon as I get this to go down a little further, here we go. Sorry, I have some technical difficulties here. There we go. All right. So here's my graph. And again, the vertex was negative 2, 5. So I'm going to put a point there. I'm going to go over 2 and up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is my vertex, okay? Again, the vertex is either the highest or the lowest point of the graph. So the first thing we did, again, just to recap, was we found the x of the vertex by using this equation right here, okay? Plugged it in to find the x of the vertex. And again, anytime you want to find a y that goes with an x, what do? You take your x and you simply plug it into wherever your original equation is, which is right here. Okay? So again, we found negative 2, we plugged it in, we got 5 out. So not too bad so far. Now, we need more than one point to make a graph, okay? And you haven't seen the basic shape, so it's going to be a little confusing at first, but I'll show you as we go, all right? Now, there's always an imaginary line called the line of symmetry that runs right through the vertex, okay? Now, what the line of symmetry does is it divides the screen, or well, not the screen, sorry, but divides your graph, whatever you draw, in complete even halves, all right? So in other words, if there is a point that is over here, 4 to the right, there's also one that is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left also. Again, it cuts it in half, okay? Completely in half. So whatever is on the right, there's also something on the left also. Now, let me show you how we can use this to our advantage, all right? If I can get this to erase, there we go. Now, the next thing you have to do, like I said, is find another point, all right? Because again, you need more than one point to graph this. So what we do to find another point is we pick any x we want, anything you want, okay? Now, my rule of thumb is I pick an x that is 2 to the right or 2 to the left of where our vertex is, okay? Our vertex, as you can see, is running through x equals -2. Again, this line goes through x equals -2. So if I want to go something 2 to the right, that would be 0, or something 2 to the left, that would be -4. Can't count. All right, so -4. Now again, this is just my suggestion. You can pick whatever you want, all right? There is no right or wrong answer. I just was taught this a long time ago, so I'm going to try and give you the same pattern I was taught, and hopefully it'll make it easier for you. But yeah, so I picked one of those two numbers, so I'm going to go with that one as soon as I get the graph back. And I'm going to plug in my 0, sorry, there it is. I'm going to plug my 0 back into my original equation, which is way up here, so that I can find the y. So let's see, so we have y equals -x squared. Right, and then it was -4x plus 1. So again, just like we did with the vertex, we found the x. How do we find the y? We plugged it back in. Same thing. You guys picked the x here. In this case, we chose 0, or at least I chose 0. Okay, you could pick a different number, but I'm going to do 0. So I'm going to take this 0, I'm going to plug it into my x's and find the y. Hopefully you'll realize that it's always that same pattern. It's always take your x, plug it in, find the y every time. All right, and this is easy. This is why I like to choose 0 whenever possible, because that's gone, leaving you with y equals +1. Okay? So what we just proved here is that when you choose 0 and plug it into the original equation here, all right, you're going to get a y of 1 out. And we don't need anything else to write our point. Okay, we have everything we need. We have a point at 0. Now, here's something that people make mistakes on. You have to start back at your origin. Okay, so add 0, nowhere left and right, up 1. Put a point here. All right, and sorry, I can't get this stuff to erase, so you just have to live with that where it's at. Okay, now we go back to that mirror image rule, that line of symmetry. If there is a point that is 2 to the right, there has to be an identical point that is 2 in the opposite direction, which is to the left. Okay, again, just to recap. Because there is a point at 0, 1, which is 2 to the right of your line of symmetry, there has to be one at this level that is also 2 to the left. That's how it works. Okay, again, line of symmetry cuts it completely in half. Now here's what our graph's going to look like. Okay, it's going to look kind of like the letter U. Right. The name for this is called a parabola. Right. A parabola always looks like one of two things: a U going up or a U going down. Ours happens to be going down in this case. All right. Now here's how we know it's going to go down. Come back to the top for a second. I know it's going to go down because this number right here, this A, is negative. If it were positive, it would have opened up. But since it was negative, we proved it was going to open down, and it always will. So you can kind of use that as a shortcut if you want. Okay, so to recap one more time. First thing you do, use this equation right here, negative b over 2a, to find the x of the vertex, only the vertex. All right? Now, x's are great, but they are much better when we have the y. So we took our x, our negative 2, and we plugged it into the original formula, which is what we did right here. Okay? And we solved it to get the y. Now, once you have the y, you have an x, y point. You have a coordinate. What do? We plot it, all right? Right here, our vertex again, at negative 2, positive 5. And then again, we have to find more points to graph this. I'm only making you find one, all right? You'll probably have to find more in other classes, but for right now, just one. And again, my rule of thumb is pick an x that's close to this number right here. Close to this x equals -2. And I went with 0, okay? What did I do? I have an x, to find the y, same thing. We plug it into the original equation again. Simplify it down to give us x equals 1. And I have a point. So I plotted. I went to 0, 0, went nowhere left and right, up 1, put this point right here, okay? And again, the line of symmetry says, if I have a point that is 2 to the right, you must have one that is 2 to the left. You can't have one without the other. It's just how it works. So there you go. All right, this is method 1. I'll get around to making videos for method 3 when we get closer to the test, so you can use them to review with. So yeah, this is the most difficult method. So if you get this one, the next one will be much easier. I promise. All right, and the third one's actually the easiest of them all. So, all right, hope this helped.